Welcome to a bonus episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror movie and they discuss it. Today we're talking about the 2019 film Dr. Sleep, which was directed by Mike Flanagan. I'm your co-host Alec.
I'm Eric, and with us is Dom Berger, Mr. Bonus, here for the 100th anniversary of the end of the movie of The Shining, The Photo, Overlook Hotel, July 4th, 1921. 100 years, here we are.
Oh, dude, what a deep cut into that movie. But it's so great to be back, guys. I feel like I have been spoiled with the movies that we get to talk about, and I'm so excited for today.
Because we did The Shining, I don't know, was it like a month and a half, 2 months ago, and we were like, holy shit, the last image of The Shining is that overlooked hotel 4th of July party from 1921, and we were like, it's the 100-year anniversary, we have to do something for this. I feel like the internet's going to kind of like do something. I don't know, there's going to be pictures everywhere, but you know, we got to talk about it. So why not talk about the sequel to The Shining? And yeah, Dom, you know so much that I have so many questions, dude, because you read the book.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, dude, this movie moves so quickly and like beat for beat really matched a lot of the book. And the book is not short. It's much longer than The Shining. But, you know, me and you, Alec, we talked like ad nauseum last time about The Shining. And I didn't throw the ball enough to Eric. And I'm so excited because Eric has not seen this movie yet. So
Yeah.
I want to know, man, what are your impressions?
All right, I'm going to say the bad thing first.
Mhm.
And the only bad thing is it was arguably very long of a movie, a film. I loved it. I really, really loved it. I was like, the next day I was telling Shannon about it, my wife, and I was like, oh my God, like, oh, this happened and this happened. It's like The Shining. And I was like, kind of like when you do that, when you're excited about a movie and you tell them the plot. And she's like, oh, so they like suck the shine out of you, this cold. I'm like, yeah. She's like, so it's like Hocus Pocus. I'm like, no, it's not like Hocus Pocus. Like,
Oh my God, it kind of is.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that's not bad actually.
No, but dude, this movie was really cool. Like really cool. It like has this nice pace at the beginning. It sets things up, and then it really starts to snowball, literally to the Overlook Hotel, which was sick.
Yeah, so you love the pacing. You know, I believe this is didn't he do Haunting of Hill House? The
This
director
director,
for
Mike
this?
Flanagan? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I love the Haunting of Hill House
Yeah.
and like the palette of colors he uses. And I mean, we'll talk about this, but like, you know, and I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but so obviously the book is very different, right? Especially the ending, right? Because you guys if you listen to the last podcast, spoiler alert for The Shining,
It blows up.
it blows up at the end of
Yeah.
The Shining. So the end of this movie, spoiler alert for this movie, is back at the hotel. So you already know, well, this is different. But it felt like there's this story for the first 2/3 of this movie, and then the last third is like a tribute to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Yeah,
Right.
big time.
So
big
also, other note, Stephen King did not like The Shining, the movie, Stanley Kubrick's, right?
Right.
No.
So why was it that he didn't like that movie? It was like, it wasn't my book, or?
It was because of Jack Nicholson's character, right? It was like he was supposed to progressively go into madness, but he started off crazy, so he didn't like that. And then obviously like the ending's different totally.
Yeah,
book.
and it, you know, and I'm sure, and it got so popular, right? And it just wasn't the same story. And just like you said, though, Alec, like he may not been the character from the book, but like it resonated. You know, Jack's character and performance really touched base with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And like there's nuance to it, and it's its own thing. But I know that Stephen King did like this movie.
So it was a nice like handshake to like, hey, you didn't like The Shining, you like Dr. Sleep, what we're doing here, but like we're kind of gonna bring in the movie too a little bit at the end. So like just everyone agree that it's good, we're having fun. Like,
But he blew it up. So it was kind of like
Yeah.
a nod to Stephen King too, where it's like, okay, everybody wants to see the Stanley Kubrick Overlook Hotel again, but also I'm gonna give a nod to Stephen King and end it the way his book ended it. So that's pretty cool.
Dude, literally down to, and
Yeah.
I remember we talked about this last time, like the way that like Danny interacts with Abra, like that is a mirror image of the ending of The Shining, only with Jack and Danny.
With
Think
Jack
of
and
that.
Danny? Or
So like
what do you
him
mean?
choosing, fighting the possession and
Yes, the
letting Abra
running,
get
yes.
away, and then literally running downstairs. That is
Yes.
like scene for scene exactly what happens in The
And he's
Shining. I was
limping.
explaining it last time.
He's limping too.
Yes.
I noticed that he's got
Absolutely.
the axe and he's got one leg's fucked up, so you're just like, wow, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, yeah, you're 100% right. It is literally the same thing chasing through the halls, like, Abra. It's
Yeah,
so
dude. I mean,
good.
even like there's so many nods in that last third, right, to the original. The way that,
Yeah.
Rose the Hat is backing Danny up the stairs as he's
Mm,
swinging the axe back and forth. Like, it's just an entire smorgasbord of like nods to the original.
yeah.
But Eric, I want to know because like we'll talk about the ending later. Like, how do
Okay.
you feel about the first part of the story?
Like him being Doctor Sleep,
Hmm.
you mean? I liked it. I like that they brought the alcohol into it too, where he's sober. We see that one scene towards the middle or end where he like really comes close to breaking, but doesn't still, unlike his dad. I like that. And it just goes to show like alcoholism is hereditary. And his dad's was an alcoholic. And he has a good reason to be an alcoholic. I mean, he has the shine, and it's maybe that helps him forget about the shine. I don't know, but
It does. Yeah,
Oh, for
that's a big
sure.
yeah,
part of, him Danny drinking is that,
yeah.
like, it tunes out his shine. How did you guys feel about the characters being recast? I enjoyed it. I was worried they were gonna do one of those, like, Luke Skywalker face recaptures, but
Well, the guy who played Dick Halloran, he's originally played by Scatman Crothers. I literally had to do a double take and look online. I was like, dude, there's no way this guy looks this good still. I couldn't tell it was a different actor. That's how
He
well the casting was.
he
So
died so long ago.
Scatman Crothers died in 1986. The new Dick is Carl Lumbry. Holy shit, perfect casting. Sounded like him. Like his mannerisms,
yeah,
perfect
dude.
casting.
Even the woman who plays Shelley Duvall's, character, when like the way that she's screams when she's looking for Danny outside, it is a great mimic of Shelley Duvall.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing about Dick too, we see him more at the beginning of the film, like helping Danny before he meets Abra. I thought for a second, since The Shining can be passed down, it's also a hereditary thing. I thought Abra was going to be somehow related to Dick. Yeah, but that didn't happen. I thought that as a viewer. I thought they were setting that up for a second.
So do you want to know spoilers from the book
Is
or
that it? Does that hold true?
no, she's related to Danny. She
What?
is
Abra is related to
yes.
Danny?
So
Wow.
Abra's mother is Danny's sister. So,
What?
yeah, Jack Torrance, when he's a teacher, right? So he's a teacher before he like gets to, he in The Shining, he's a teacher, and this kid approaches him in the parking lot. Jack loses his temper and he beats the crap out of a student,
Mm,
right? And that's when he gets fired. But in the Doctor Sleep book, he away at one of his lectures, he sleeps with one of his students, right? Who ends up being Avra's mother's mother. So
no
and then
shit.
she has Abra's mother, and then that mother has Abra. So when she
So
says Uncle Dan, it's true.
Yeah. What?
wow. Okay. But hey, there's lineage, but there's also that's why Abra is just as equally powerful as Danny because they have that shine from their bloodline.
I think she's more powerful than
She
Danny.
is. She is. She somehow has that genetic shine that's way more powerful. But
Yeah,
yeah.
she's very, very strong. I think the thing that I loved about the beginning part of this story is like they pay a lot of attention to like the moments with the patients, these quiet moments where you see Danny and he's sitting and he's talking to these people and he's being Doctor Sleep, right? And like the come fly with me, like singing with the patient. Like
Yeah.
it's a really well shot scene. It's very sweet. And it's not just like you would imagine, right? That people come to be scared. They come for a very specific reason to come to this horror movie. And that's where the tone kind of shifts, where it's like, well, it's more than just that. Like, yeah, there's horror elements and it's very scary at certain parts, but like we have character development for days.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, Danny, I love too how it's like Doctor Sleep and he helps him go to sleep, but also like Doc is his nickname, like from the original. I'm like, it's such a good, cool little connection. And really quick, I
Mhm.
just wanted to mention I loved all of the recasting. I thought like everybody did a great job. The only thing I didn't like, I wish they used that actual shot from The Shining of Shelley Duvall when they're doing the flashbacks, when she has the knife and the axe coming through the door. I really wish that was the Shelley Duvall take.
Didn't they do
'Cause-
that? They showed an actual
No,
flashback, I thought.
no, they did, but it's the new actress, and I was like,
Yeah,
I wish they kind of
everything
used
looks
that.
reshot. And I'm wondering if that has to do
Okay.
with the rights to the movie.
Probably does, so they don't have to pay royalties to Shelley Duvall and you know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, see, and like it's weird because they tease The Shining in the beginning, right? They start with those hexagons that fade in with the title card,
Mm.
and then there's little moments. I don't know if you guys remember when Abra's watching Brad, the baseball player, get killed. First off, that scene in particular,
Oh,
I had to turn the sound off. It was so real and so fucked up. Like I still feel a little rattled from it.
dude, that's the most intense, like, child murder scene I've ever seen in a movie. Like, they
Yeah,
went all in on killing that kid.
yeah, that was
But
brutal.
sorry to
Well,
derail you,
think
though.
about what they would have done to Abra, which makes it more intense. Like,
Yeah,
Oh,
dude.
you know what I mean? Like, it sets up like, oh, we just did this to some baseball kid that knows pitches. Imagine what they would do to Abra if they got a hold of her.
It's so
You know what I
terrible. And
mean? Like, that's what it puts in your head.
absolutely. And they go to like a shot of Abra reacting to it at first, and she's doing that weird shake that Danny does in The Shining, that first time that he sees Tony, right?
oh, yeah.
It's a very interesting choice, like
Mm.
they hint it and then all of a sudden it's something new and original.
Two
Damn,
other
yeah.
things that are I really liked. One, the opening sequence. Clearly, the music. When you hit those notes again, it was like dun
The
dun,
horns.
so familiar, and it just goosebumps. Also, when they go to the title sequence of Doctor Sleep, you see the Overlook Hotel, like you said, carpet pattern, and that was very like, oh, it's a familiar sight. So it was like, oh, we're in for a good show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Like some places that this movie like has its own style that I really loved because I get nervous sometimes. So with the transitions, especially of things where like Rose is spying on Abra, right? The transition from the supermarket to Abra's room, the way
Yeah.
the camera fluidly moves and gravity changes, it's like that I've never seen it, and I know that like there's a digital aspect to it, but it just seems so goddamn smooth. And I was like, damn, man, like I know for sure that like shit is going down.
When she's like floating around the globe, you mean?
Yeah. So I mean, like, so Alec and I watched this YouTube series, right, where this guy goes through the kills of horror movies. It's called Dead Meat. It's really great,
So
and they
good.
talk about the shot where she had just got her hand crushed, which was fucking
Ugh.
gnarly. It was a great special effect, and it tosses her body back in, and that transition from either a special effect or whatever they have to her like tumbling
Like
off the top
spinning
of the car.
backward. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Well, he does
Yeah.
that in Hill House a lot with, like, the bended snap neck lady or whatever, like, I don't know, just, like, he does very well with making it seem like people are actually floating.
It was
No.
really really cool. Like it felt like you had to like you almost like watching it wanted to move back almost.
Mhm,
That makes
mhm.
sense.
That re-enter was good. I love the way that they go into Avra's window. Like, I gotta tell you, so above the city as she's traveling, I thought that was like a little bit like, meh, she seems like she's standing in front of a blue
I can
screen.
show you the
Yeah.
world. Like
Very, very true. Um, but like, so that happens, and then I'm watching, I think Grandpa Flynn at that point, he starts to cycle out. Do you guys have questions about like why that happened?
I have a question about that, but really quick, I wanna say,
Twin
Eric, do you
Peaks, Twin
yes, yeah,
Peaks. Yeah,
alright,
I
yes,
know
yes,
the
yes,
the
okay,
7 foot
okay.
tall. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 okay.
He's a.
Anyways.
I read up about him. He's a vegetarian.
Oh, good for me. Hey, hey,
Seven
me
a
and my
7 foot tall vegetarian. So there you
look at
go.
him, look at
Look at
him.
him.
Wow.
Look at him.
Something to aspire for me. Well, so yeah, so Dom, so basically he was cycling. So does that mean that he changed forms throughout the years? Like you saw like empires rise and fall, and you had Pope's ears and all this stuff. Like, so did he look different throughout time, or was he always
So
that guy?
it's really interesting. So like, and they don't really explain it. So I'm curious like what people think when they watch just the movie. But like what happens is Brad, the baseball player, right, has measles. So when his essence is taken and 6 months later, all the members of the True Knot are starting to get sick, right? And they don't get sick with human disease, but because he had it when they took his essence, it's tearing through the True Knot at like an exceptional pace. And the reason that it's even more important that they get Abra is because they think because she has the vaccine that like when they take in her essence that they will start to be in better health. But grandpa, he's like
Huh.
the Grandpa Flynn, he's the oldest of the True Knot. And because he's so old, it goes through him quicker. And it like what happens is cycling when they're turned into these like shining vampires, right? They breathe in that essence. You see a little bit of that with the rattlesnake girl, And they do this thing where they go through a transformation where different parts of their bodies disappear and reappear, and like, that's how they transition from being human into whatever they are, these vampires essentially. But that's what happens when they're being born, and when they die, they cycle out. So you'll see every time they get shot, everybody cycles out. They just disappear. They Jedi disappear. Clothes are only left.
Yeah, so and I kinda noticed, like, especially when Grandpa Flynn was dying, it looked like he was kinda turning into different people a little bit, like, when he's flashing or whatever, but, yeah, I wanted to know if it's like, because I feel like people would be like, "Wait, that's the same guy from, like, the drawings from blah, 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 like, 100 years ago, like, what's he doing here?" Like, if he was that influential, but they also say that, like, "Oh, these people are rich and well-connected." They're living in trailers. They don't have anything. So
Yeah, and that's the whole so Stephen King makes a big point, like, these trailer park people who, like, no one ever notices. They come in and out, like,
yeah.
his whole idea was, like, what kind of people could get away with, like, kidnapping children, and it's these RV people that everybody underestimates and, like, you forget as soon as you meet. But I gotta say, like, just the way, like, and I always talk about shot composition whenever I'm doing this podcast, but I think it's like this, the cinematography, like the establishing shots when they have like Brad walking against like the like the hayfield, and then you have like when they're in their true knot, they have the lights blowing out the background from all their RVs in a circle. Like it looks like there's no escape, even though they're in a wide open field. It like the blown out lights make it so that it looks like there's nowhere to go. And I think that's a great thing for the director to have tried.
Well, really quick, speaking of this too, I didn't realize there was a director's cut too. There's like the 2.5 hour version, and then right when it ended on HBO Max, it was like, "Do you want to watch the director's cut?" I just clicked on to see how long it was. It's 3 hours long. So I was like,
Hmm.
"Shit!" Did you guys watch the director's or the regular?
Regular two and a
Regular.
half. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I wish I watched the director's because I was like, "Ah, shit," might as well,
Sometimes,
right?
sometimes there's a reason why they cut it down, but I mean, 2.5 hours is plenty, really.
Yeah, but this director clearly is like he's got such a good eye for stuff, Dom. I mean, obviously Hill House, and then this, and I haven't really seen anything else he's done, but
One
yeah,
more thing
it's
about why they're in trailers and stuff. So they go all the way back to ancient Rome, or at least some of them do. I think one, they need to be in like hiding because it's the 21st century now, and there's cameras and stuff everywhere, so they can't be just killing people and taking their shine. Two, they're on the move. The shine is very like rare now, so they probably got to go to California, to Colorado, to Connecticut, to Florida, just to find these kids, really, because it seems like they're attacking kids because most people with shine don't live long because people kill them before they even become of age because that's how rare it is.
when it gets tainted too, right? As they get older.
Yeah, it goes away. And
Not for
in the
Danny.
they go into detail in the book about how it's not just people with the shine that they get energy from. It's, so fear and anguish. So what they do is like these world events happen, like 9/11 happens in the book, and they will like absorb the misery of all these people. And I'm sure there's some kind of metaphor in there about people who like watch news cycles about disasters, and they get some kind of weird fascination with it. But that's part of how they get their energy. And it's really strange because they kill kids, and they're moving to different spots that are near disasters, and they can kind of anticipate those because
Huh.
Rose can see a little bit into the future. So
Hmm.
there's that happening, but the relationship within the true knot, like they're very nice to each other. Like it's weird to think that like outside of this leeching of children, like they're a strong community, and like they're not painted so like black and white as mustache twirling villains.
It's a good
Huh.
point because I mean they could take the shine from each other. Obviously, they have a pact where they don't. But when the grandfather dies, man, do they take advantage of that? They just
Yeah, they
suck the
sucked
shine that
in.
he had. So that gives a good point. Like they're a very like true knot, tight knit community where they won't kill each other, but they'll
Well,
work together.
it seems like Rose is kind of like in charge, obviously, but it seems like Crow Daddy's the one where it's like, should we turn her or should we take her, or whatever? And then she starts like kind of like getting up on him, like using her sexuality, and he's just like, all right, back up, like, what are we doing, sort of thing. Like this is getting fucked up. So it seems like she's kind of like has a little bit more manipulation, and maybe the other ones are more focused on actual survival. She wants to be the most
Yes.
in charge and powerful. It seems like she doesn't really care about anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, so she is like after the grandfather, she's the most senior and she has the most ability. So she's very similar to Abra. The other people, they have shine, but like most of them don't have like a single ability and it's not as good as either Abra or Rose the Hat. And the actress that plays her does a really good job. You can hear her slight Irish accent because when she was first
Yeah.
turned, she was Rose the Hat, like of the Rose, like from Ireland. So she's got this slight Irish accent, which is done masterfully. I really, really like it. Um, and in the book, and I'm happy they didn't have this in the movie, is that she's beautiful. And then when she goes to absorb steam, she opens her mouth and she has a single tooth, which to me, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not imaginative enough. When I pictured that, it was very like witch out of like Hansel and Gretel type thing. I'm happy
Hmm.
that they kind of kept her scary, but not like look how ridiculous one tooth in a woman's mouth would look.
She reminded
Yeah.
me of Clockwork Orange a little bit, like the Druids or like the True Knot, and she's like the leader. And the top hat obviously kind of felt like Clockwork Orange a little bit, and Alex.
Mm.
Yeah.
And like you guys talk about action movies all the time. I think they did a really great job with the shootout.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you two things that maybe were from the book that actually lead up to the shootout. So, what has Danny been doing? Basically for the past like years or whatever, because like he's very good with a gun. Clearly, I mean, like we don't see him doing that. We assume he's just like a homeless alcoholic, basically, but very good with a gun. And I want to know what happened in those 8 years where he was living in that town in New Hampshire. Like he's living in the same room still. He's just kind of doing odd jobs, but he's like sober. But like do they go into that at all? Do they explain why he's so good with that gun and all that?
I don't believe they do much with the gun. They talk about Dan's sobriety. There's much more to the story with the girl in the beginning and the son. So that's his rock bottom. And the reason it hits him so hard is because in the book, he does take that money from her and he gets really drunk one night when, he's with this girl. He beats up these people in this bar. Dan has $80 that he's supposed to use to like pay his rent. And gets drunk, he goes with this girl, Deanie, to go get drugs. He insists on buying a lot of cocaine. And then in the morning, he's so pissed that he spent all of his money. He robs her, and that's when the kid comes out. And when he touches the kid, he like has a flash and premonition where her brother, Deanie's brother, the kid's uncle, like beats him all the time. And instead of like Dan being a good guy and leaving the money, he takes the money and he puts the cocaine by her bed. And then when he has flashes of her later, he knows that that little kid like ends up getting killed by the uncle. The uncle like has a rage
Jesus.
attack and he crushes the kid's head in, right?
What the fuck?
And then the woman commits suicide. But the woman, Deanie, this from the beginning, she's his rock bottom. He feels guilty. He kind of knows that if he robs her and he leaves her like that, that she's not going to get out of this situation good because he has like a premonition. But it's really weird because she tells him like to seek out Rose the Hat. Like her dead body comes through like it does in the movie. And like, he knows somehow she has died. And then she's like, you need to Rose the Hat, like avoid her or she'll eat you. I mean, the movie did a really great job in
Hmm.
hitting all the beats of the book, but I thought that maybe deserved a little more background because it's kind of random that those two are in his bed dead.
Oh, Jesus, that's really fucked up. Because I was like, man, that's so messed up. That like when the baby's there and like the hand comes over, you're like, it's pretty messed up. But what you just said really really hits it home. Okay, so that's really all we get though. I mean, in those 8 years or anything like that.
They
Well, you said
talk a
New Hampshire. I mean, I'm sure he's hunting, and it looked like they were using hunting rifles.
Right. They talk a lot about his building up his relationship with so that guy from the beginning, right? That
Billy.
Bill like Friedman
Yeah.
and Dr. John. So those two are a much more prevalent. Dr. John ends up being Abra's doctor, and then Dan and him meet at an AA, just like in the movie, but there's more sessions. So like he's kind of like Dan's becoming more sober, and he's like there's something really special about that draws him to teeny town and this town where he turns his life around, and he gets the job as Doctor Sleep before he meets Dr. John.
Hmm.
So and there's a lot to do with Abra's got this grandmother. It's a longer time period, right? She's got this grandmother Momo that's discussed, and
Yeah.
like there's a whole subplot where, like, do you guys just want me to ruin the book or?
Well, I I mean, I guess to me this is interesting because I wanted to know like what
Yeah.
happens. That felt like such an abrupt jump in the movie that I was like, there's got to be more or at least like I wish the time frame was shorter in the movie. It's like 2 years or something like that because 8 years is a long time for not much to happen except for Dan gets sober. You know?
Yeah, in the book, there's a lot to do with Abra growing up. So she has like weird premonitions of it's more about Abra, right? So she has weird premonitions of natural disasters happening. Her psychic powers come out in different ways. Like she has this ability to play the piano without touching the keys or even the keys moving. It's just the music happens above the
Hmm.
piano. So a lot of that time is like Abra growing up.
Okay. Well, I guess this because yeah, we probably don't want you to just ruin everything about it, but I do want to know the ending eventually. But overall, like, Dom, what do you think? Do you prefer the book or the movie?
Ooh, good question. I gotta be honest. So when I read the book for the first time, I was pretty disappointed because it went from something that was like this house or this hotel that may or may not be haunted. It was very subtle till the very end where all the ghosts came out. To this book where it's like from the beginning, you have this group of like mystical vampires, one with one tooth. And I was reluctant to kind of get invested, but I'll tell you, the way they told the story in the movie is very reminiscent of how the book unfolds, and they do it in such a way that like it is a great story, and I loved it. They didn't. So the ending is so different, right? Because the whole time you're kind of thinking back to the first book in the book, and you're like, well, this is a little bit different, and there is a nod to the Shining in the end of the book, but it's like I thought that when the movie came out and they went back to the hotel, I thought it was gonna be like, "All right, this is just, like, too much, and they're just doing, like" no offense to Ready Player One, but, like, something like that, where they just show the Overlook and all like, shot by shot, redone.
Fan service.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was worried it was gonna be that, and to my pleasant surprise, it was wonderful.
Yeah. There's only one little bit of fan service in this whole movie that actually pissed me off is when Danny's talking about the guy that is like, "Cheers, like great party, isn't it?" It's like, how would he know that? That
So
felt
back in the
so like
gold,
shoved
I
in
like
there.
that it went back to the gold room. I really did.
No, I like that, but I think the only like fan servicey thing was that one line where Dan says that. I was just like, "Eh."
Yeah, yeah.
But oh
One
wait,
thing I did like. Oh, you go. You go.
well no, just really quick, I want to ask you about the Gold Room, Eric. Do you know who that actor is who plays Jack
No.
Nicholson's character? You're gonna die. Do you know, Dom?
No, I don't.
Oh my god. It's the kid from E.T.
Oh,
Elliot.
no
Elliot.
Yeah,
way!
it's Elliot from E.T.
Nice.
Isn't
Talent.
that crazy?
So
He
good.
did good. He's a good actor, man. He's a good actor. That he did
It's
a good job.
so well, he was in Haunting of Hill House also, but,
Okay.
sorry, anyways, that's all I want to say about the Gold Room. What were you saying there, Eric?
No, I was gonna say one other thing I really liked, and to keep it quick. I mean, these the True Knot goes back to ancient Rome, right? So
At least.
one, yeah, at least. But the thing where Danny takes them is to the Overlook Hotel, which is built on an Indian burial ground, which goes way further back than ancient Rome, probably. So that to me is so cool that they don't even know what they're walking into, and they've explained that the Overlook Hotel is like a battery for people that have the shine. So Danny is like going in there, and he's like, "I'm going into the devil I know." And they're not even going to know what they're walking into. And I love that idea. I haven't read the book, but I just appreciate this movie for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because it's like so the book is kind of similar where they go to where the Overlook Hotel was, and now there's just this deck that's been built overlooking like the mountains, and that's kind of
Oh,
where
shit.
like they lure all of these, they lure Rose the Hat to go there. And it's interesting because in this movie, a lot of people die, and it's not that way in the book. Danny survives, and I thought that was a really interesting choice for this movie to make.
To do what his dad did in the original book, right?
Yes, exactly. Right. Obviously, like that is the true ending to The Shining, and that's a nice respect to that ending.
It's a handshake. It really just handshakes it all and just like, hey, Stephen King, I hope you like this one because we tried to make everyone happy, viewers and you. We tried to stay true to the book. Like,
Yeah, I didn't hate it either.
Well, how does it end, Dom?
So it
We're gonna
ends.
go there. Okay, I was like, are we gonna go there? And then
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
I
I don't want to spoil the ending. And then Dom's like, I don't either. It's like, let's just go there. We're 30 minutes
I
in. Let's
I
come
mean, I
on.
need to know. I need to know.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, no, I'm really sorry.
Spoiler
So,
alert in effect.
spoiler alert, if you haven't, I pretty much already spoiled the rest of the book, so I'm so sorry. But so they're trying to lure her out, and it's really interesting because Abra in the book has a big temper. And you start to realize that Abra and Danny, she does the thing where she rubs her mouth, and like in the book, Jack Torrance is always rubbing his mouth when he's angry. So it's like these weird things that are coming up all the way through. And then at the very end, they do that shootout. They kill a bunch of people, just like in the book. Abra gets captured. So they bring him to this Overlook, this bridge or whatever, and then Dan does what he does. He releases the ghosts, and they start to push her off of it. And then she gets overpowered and pushed to her death. And then when Dan looks up at the new Overlook, like this like thing that's overlooking the mountains, his dad is there and he waves to him, the ghost of his dad. It's like a beautiful moment.
Wow. I kind of
Huh.
like that better in some way.
Yeah, it's really, really great. And like when they go back, like Abra's parents weren't killed in the book. So like Dan, he's an uncle. So he like, they find out their lineage earlier on. The mother's name I think is Lucy. And they kind of like come back together and they're a new family. Like Dan his entire life has been avoiding like having a wife and kids because he's so afraid of like what happened to his dad. And then after he became an alcoholic, he stayed away from anything, any kind of relationship or any kind of responsibility that he could fuck up like his dad did. And then the very end, Abra's his niece, but it's like it's still that kind of him accepting a new family.
Yeah, because in the movie, Jack has no redeemable qualities. So it's like it's hard for that to work in this movie now, like kind of that it is a continuation of that film. Like in the book, it makes sense because Jack was a good guy initially, you know?
Mhm.
I think the one line too in this movie that kind of gives a nice little nod to, I guess, good Jack would be when he's talking at the AA meeting and he's just like, my dad stood here too. And it's like, okay, so your dad like wanted to get sober. Like he tried at least. But that's
Yeah,
the only
dude.
thing. The movie, The Shining, is just Jack is an asshole from beginning to end, you know?
Dude, that monologue when he's talking before the group, I think what's his name did a great job as Danny.
Oh,
Great
Ewan
Ewan
job.
McGregor?
McGregor. Yeah, we didn't even talk about his performance, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
want to make it too long. I'm so sorry. It was like I just in terms of like the ending, very different. Not even when the what's his name shoots himself, his friend Billy Freeman
Oh,
shoots
yeah.
himself. Like that doesn't happen in the book.
Ah,
So I
okay.
mean, yeah, I understand, but like I did love the shots of Danny walking around the hotel as the lights come up. It was so incredible and it was so haunting about those shots that like I couldn't be upset that it's different.
I just wanted
Dude.
him, Ewan McGregor, on a tricycle. I would have appreciated seeing him on a big boy tricycle.
Oh my God.
That would have been
Nah.
like a little too much, though.
I mean, I was gonna ask you guys. I was trying to think of this while I was watching it. I really think this is like the best horror sequel of all time. I can't think of another one. Also, the fact that it came out like 40 years later and it was basically written by the same guy. Like, I can you guys think of any other sequel to any horror movie that
I
could be
mean,
better
other
than
than
this?
Aliens, like, but
Yeah, Aliens is the only one I was gonna say too.
I was watching this going like, damn, this was one of the first really good horror movies I had seen in a long time. I remember when I watched this, I was so nervous because I had seen a bunch of Stephen King movies and like they had done something for HBO, like a mini series of a book, and it was good, but it wasn't quite inventive enough. So when they were like, we're
Mm.
making a Doctor Sleep movie, I was really nervous for it. And right away I felt like I was in very capable hands with the director.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say, Alec, it reminds me, and I think I brought this up in the last podcast, but kind of Mad Max, where like Mad Max is like The Shining, whereas The Road Warrior is its own unique adaptation, not forgetting The Shining, but like doing it's not the same story at all. And it completely takes it to the next level.
I
That's
mean,
what this felt like. I love that this sequel is amazing, amazing sequel. But yeah,
it's everything like a sequel should want to be. I mean, it basically doesn't forget the original, grows on the concept, adds a lot of new things, but then like still feels familiar, still has the same characters that you cared about from the first one, doing something totally different, but you learn so much more. It's like fucking Empire Strikes Back for like a horror movie. It's so good.
yeah, yeah. Sounds like a good example.
Dude, I gotta tell you though, like the death scenes for all of these characters, like everyone who dies, it is violent. Even when Rose was getting taken down, like it's hard to watch. Like this guy did a really good job of setting it up in a way that like I felt bad for even the bad guys who were like cycling out.
Yeah, just getting eaten alive. Just knowing what that must feel like. Like they're sucking your life force out and you're turning into like a corpse. Like that's the that must be the worst way to die. I
Hocus
don't know.
pocus. Yeah.
Focus, motherfucking focus. Well, Dom, well, I guess either of you guys, you have anything last to say about Doctor Sleep?
I mean, I don't think I missed any chapters, but you know, if anyone anyone comes up with stuff that I missed and they want to post it to the YouTube version of this, feel free.
I would say a happy 100-year anniversary to the Gold Room at the Overlook Hotel, where I get to watch the Lakers play every Thursday, and it's great. And we get to have a little Jack and Coke. Sorry, I just had to do that.
That's beautiful, man. I love it.
No, but happy 100 years to the Gold Room photo in The Shining. So this is great.
It's a big
We
deal.
had to do it. I hope there's a Twitter that's like hashtag Shining Day. You know,
there has to be.
You know, here's Johnny. Like hashtag here. You know, we're gonna see that on Twitter.
Well, the music when that photo's playing is the music for the credits for this movie too. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I love that 20s music, man. They have it a couple times in the movie.
Oh, it's so good. When they're on the beach. But yeah, there's so much to talk about with this movie too. It's so long. Yeah. Very good. Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July, everyone.
Happy 4th of July.
Let's get to the Gold Room and pour another one.
All right. Well, Dom, thank you so much. And we're going to get you on Red Dragon soon. You know that, right?
So excited. I hope it's not as much of me talking about the book. I think maybe that might bog down the runtime.
No, I want to know. Like, I mean, I
wanted to know too. Like, it's not just out. I wanted to know. So, thank you for that spoiler. Was his dad actually waving at him, or was it like his frozen body, like unthawing over like 30 years?
I mean, he got blown up, so his body would definitely be like fried, if anything. But yeah, probably. You never know.
Yeah, you know what? That's one thing I really want to say quick about the Return of the Jedi. It should have been old Vader, not Hayden Christensen. Like, think about it.
Preach.
Anyways, all right. Well, we'll see everybody tomorrow with I don't even know what movie's coming out tomorrow.
A Quiet Place.
Oh, see everybody tomorrow with A Quiet Place.